Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
And welcome back in, everybody, to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. My name's Patrick Kenny. I'm going to be your host for today's episode, and I think we got a good one for you today. So we're going to get started with Major League Baseball's just awful replay system right now. We're going to get into that in just a second, and then Bleacher Report put out their Week 2 power rankings for the season. Major League Baseball, or MLB.com, put out theirs as well, but I'm going to be using Bleacher Reports instead. And then in the third segment, we got some standing updates and some stat updates. I'm going to probably be giving you these updates sort of every episode that I put out, just kind of that way we can all monitor where everybody's at and that kind of thing. And then finally, I have my top 10 pitchers in baseball and a few reasons why. I'll give you number 11 right now, since I didn't include him in my top 10. My number 11 is Blake Snell. So with that being said, in just a second, we're going to get right into this these power ranking, this replay system. All right, so everybody knows what is just an awful replay system in the bigs. So right now, there have been already, I would say, probably about 3 to 5 really, really bad and missed calls so far. And people are just really not happy. Like, the fans of baseball are already not super happy with the league right now, and that's for any number of reasons. One of those being like the blackouts. Like, if you pay for MLB, like the MLB at bat, and you get the free game of the day, but if you're in, I believe it's 150-mile radius of the game of the day, it's blacked out. If you're in 150-mile radius of your favorite team, that game is also blacked out on the app. So that's one reason. And then this is just another reason right now. So the first time that I think that it actually really happened this year was against the Miami Marlins and the New York Mets. And it was a close game going down to the end of the it was just a really close game going into the season, or the end of the game, and it was a bases loaded situation. There were 2 outs. It was a 1-2 count, and Michael Conforto leaned into a pitch over the plate. It was definitely a strike, actually, and wore it on the elbow guard just enough to where it would make enough noise that the umpire would hear it. And the umpires awarded it, confirmed it as a hit by pitch, even though the replay clearly showed that it was over the plate. And so he should have been called out in the rule book. The rule book states that that is an out if you lean over the plate and get hit. And fans and the Marlins actual Twitter account tweeted that that he should have been out. And that really is just, I mean, I did not like the play. Like, if you're Michael Conforto, it's a smart enough play. You know you're already down in the count. so you're trying to kind of lean into one a little bit just so you can make sure that you guys get that lead or the go-ahead run in the ninth. And I mean, it was just such a bad play. Actually, excuse me, it was the winning run that it was called for. It was the Mets were at home and the Marlins were on the way, and so it was in Citi Field. That's my mistake, but. So up next is, I think, a little bit more of a controversial call. I mean, like, obviously, like, that one is just kind of a blown call, and umpires, for some reason, just don't want to go back on what they called. And I mean, there are a few reasons for that, and I'll get into my speculation for that reason in just a few minutes, but the next play is against the Braves and the Phillies. And so Alec Boehm is called safe at home. It was a lazy fly ball to left field. He was on third base. He's running home, and at the very first glance, especially at the angle that the TV cameras and everything were at, it was behind home plate. So it looks like Boehm slid around Travis d'Arnaud's tag, even though Marcell Ozuna's from left field beat him to home plate. Phillies manager Joe Girardi saw it, and the young third baseman just barely touched the plate, he said. Joe Girardi said that, quote, "It was by the skin of his big toe, I think, that we scored." It looked like his big toe kind of hit the corner of the plate when we saw a lot of angles. That's what Girardi said. But looking back at the other angles, it does appear that this was a close call, and it could have been like in the NFL where it's like not enough evidence, so the call stands. It's not overturned or confirmed. It just kind of stands, kind of a thing. But none of the angles shown on ESPN's broadcast offered exclusive evidence that Boehm's toe touched home plate. And Atlanta players saw some of the same angles. And Drew Smiley, who started Sunday, or that Sunday start, said it was just an embarrassing call. And even Mike Trout waded in onto the controversy and said just a 2-word tweet on Twitter. I believe he quoted the tweet and just said, "So bad." I mean, it was a very close call. Like, this one was much closer than the Conforto one, but I mean, it was just such a bad situation for everything that was, or for what the replay is, and there just hasn't been anything yet that has been overturned that was significant. I should say, there have been these two examples specifically that would have resulted in significantly different outcomes for both of the teams, and or for all four teams, because these are obviously two different games with 4 different clubs. So it would have kind of had 2 completely different game outcomes, affected the standings a little bit, affected the series a little bit more. And I mean, it's just absurd that those calls specifically were not or that they just were not put on, and they just were not fixed, and these calls were just so blatant, at least to me, especially the Conforto one, not necessarily the Boehm and d'Arnaud tag, but that one was a much closer play. But the general consensus is that everybody saw was that d'Arnaud got the tag down, and that's the most important part of that. And there was another one on April 12th. Austin Slater, the right fielder for the the San Francisco Giants, he dove into the net, jumped into it on the right field foul line. Initially, it was called a foul ball. The umpire said that the ball hit the net. And then looking back on the replay, it clearly showed that Slater caught that ball and then ran into the net. Like, the ball never touched the net. It was in his glove the whole time. And that is just another one that they looked at the replay. They saw that it was clearly a catch, but the umpires didn't want to go back on their word. And I think that that's mostly what it's about. It's about Major League Baseball's umpires just saying, hey, turning it into a sort of look at me kind of a thing. And I think that if the umpires, and I know how this is going to sound, but I think if the umpires really want to, I guess, I don't want to say keep their jobs, but sort of, I mean, not to be less likely to be replaced by robots, I think that the best course of action for the umpires is to own their mistakes and say, hey, we got it wrong, but hey, with this help and this, we all know that it's right. So there's no real reason to get everything worked up or this, that, and the other for whatever reason. So I think that this is just I think that it's a very good, I think that replay is a very important part of this, of baseball and of sports in the future, just in general. Like, we've had replay in the NFL and the NBA for a while now, and replay has significantly changed the outcomes of some of the games in both sports, respectively. But without anybody overturning any of the calls, even though everybody can see everything is right or wrong, depending on the outcome or depending on the original call of a play, it's really important, at least in my opinion, to get it right, to get the call right. If you don't get the call right, what are you doing? Why are you out there? And then if you get the call wrong, which everybody's human, there's going to be blown calls. Everybody remembers the imperfect game from a few years ago, where it was in a perfect game for the Tigers. I can't remember the pitcher's name right now off the top of my head, but it was the Tigers versus the Cleveland Indians. Last play, two outs in the ninth inning. And a blown call by the first base umpire ruins the game. And that was before there was replay. That was actually one of the more important factors in deciding that replay should be in baseball. But without umpires owning their mistakes, even right there, that they, and with the replay and the clips and everything, without that, like, without umpires like owning up to it, it's not something that is going to change. It's not something that is going to it's not going to let fans come into the game with a fresh aspect or with an open mind, and it's definitely not going to allow new fans to enjoy baseball, especially if their sort of favorite team or the team that they happen to be rooting for goes down to it comes down to a play at the plate, bottom of the ninth inning, 2 outs, and the call on the field is wrong, and everybody shows it on, the replay is shown, and that the call is clearly the other way, but the umpires stick with the call on the field. It's just going to push new fans away, and it's going to make baseball. It's going to make it even harder for fans to stay in baseball and to stay with baseball. And that's something that baseball really needs to focus on right now, is getting younger. Not necessarily the players on the field, but making their fan base younger, making baseball matter again like it used to, even before I grew up. And because of that, because of the lack of integrity, I would say, with umpires in baseball, it's just so disheartening to see that they're so stubborn and closed-minded about the calls that they make. It's just so frustrating, especially watching guys like Joe West, who is probably one of the best umpires in baseball, if not the best right now, but watching guys like Angel Hernandez just completely miss 14 calls in the strike zone that are called balls, and then try and make up for them with a call that is even worse on the other end of the field, or on the other end of the strike zone. It's like watching those players, or not players, umpires, watching those umpires make it harder to watch the game as a fan. And that's what I think baseball's biggest problem is right now. It's just not appealing to the fan base. And because it's not appealing to their target audience and things like that, it's just not, it's going to go by the wayside, and there's nothing that fans can really do except try and, complain and moan about what is going on here and there that needs to be improved. And I will say that baseball is doing some, I think, really good things in the minor leagues with rule changes this year, like extending or adding the pitch clock, the balk, or the not the balk, the pickoff rule that can ultimately lead into a balk, sort of a thing. And I think that I think that Major League Baseball is taking the right steps, but there's so much more that I think needs to be done. When this happens, I think there's so much more baseball that baseball needs to fix, and it's not just because of baseball being whatever the reason is. It's not baseball being afraid to make a change or whatever. It's more about baseball getting things right. And right now, the umpires are not getting things right. And it's super frustrating as a fan to watch your team or watch a better team that's around you, or whatever, a better team that is closer to who you are as a fan, and that it's the team that you support, and then an umpire just gets in the way of the game, and it's not because it's the right call. Like, if it's the right call, it's one thing, and fans can accept that. But if it's the wrong call, and then we see it on the replay, it's the exact opposite thing. And these aren't calls that are just ridiculously close. Obviously the closest one that comes to my mind is a few years ago, Ohio State and Michigan were playing, and I believe it was either Curtis Samuel or JT Barrett that jumped over the line in overtime, and the umpire or the field judge and line judge, called it as a first down, and then they looked at the replay and they couldn't get a clear call. That kind of thing in baseball, where it would be like a bang bang play and they just can't see based on where the camera angles are. That kind of a thing is kind of interesting to see if it could happen again. And it's just interesting to see if that happens, fans can accept something going one way or the other, and there not being a clear way to see that on replay. But if there is something that is just so obvious to so many people, and the umpires don't see it, or they don't give the right call, they don't change the call on the field that they made, it is going to be it's going to be disastrous for Major League Baseball. It really is. It's so disappointing to watch these guys miss so many calls, and it's just so rampant right now. And I think that might be because getting the rust off kind of a thing. But it's when you miss a call and you see it on the replay, you got to make the right call. So up next, we're going to be reacting to some of the power rankings here in just a second. Take it on a little bit of a lighter note. After that, we're going to be going over some stats and standing updates. And then I have my top 10 pitchers in baseball for y'all coming up in just a minute. We'll be right back in just 1 second.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And welcome back into the second segment for today's episode of the GSMC Baseball Podcast. I'm Patrick Kenny, like I said before. Follow us on Twitter at GSMC_baseball. We tweet a lot of content out there. We ask you guys questions. We love interacting with y'all, so give us a follow out there. You help build us a little bit more of a platform so we can start creating a community around our podcast here at GSMC. So we're going to be going over the Bleacher Report's power rankings so far for week 2, and we're just going to be kind of looking at what can be done. And this is by Joel Reuter of Bleacher Report. And so there are some pretty dramatic shifts in this, but some kind of stayed the same. So 3 teams that stayed the same are number 30 through 28. That's the Pirates, the Colorado Rockies at 29, and the Rangers at 28. The Rangers are just not going to be a good pitching team. The Rockies are just going to be struggling right now. They're just kind of in a rebuild mode, and so are the Pirates. But the Pirates did win a series, so that's, a positive. That's definitely a positive. And then Jake Cronenworth is playing really well. Key Bryant Hayes was playing really well prior to him getting hurt. But so far, those teams haven't changed very much, if at all. And next is the Washington Nationals at 27. They were ranked number 11th, but they're 2-5 so far. Their defense is missing a few key pieces with some COVID-19 outbreaks, including both of their catchers, and they did have a really tough task to start the season with a couple of series against the Braves and the Dodgers. They're definitely capable of contending, but they definitely did get out to a rough start. Up next is the Tigers at number 26. They had a 1-5 week that included 2 series losses, 1 to Minnesota, and then Cleveland got their revenge after their opening series woes, I should say. They're still in a rebuild mode. They're not going to be very special this year, but they did get out to a decent start, but they're definitely going to come down after that. At number 25 is the Miami Marlins. They had them ranked prior to this week at number 24. The Marlins scored 24 runs in 8 games, and 12 of them came during one game during their opening series. So basically, they have scored 12 runs in the last 8 games that they've played. They're not doing great hitting the ball, but their pitching has been really, really good, however. With Sandy Alcantara pitching 12 innings with a 1.50 ERA, Pablo Lopez 11 2/3 of an inning with a 1.54 ERA, and then Trevor Rogers has pitched in 10 innings and has has a 1.8 ERA. So they look really good, but I don't know if that's going to be good enough to get out of the cellar. Up next is the Baltimore Orioles. They had a great 3-0 start opening weekend against the Red Sox, and then they went 1-5 in their next 6 against the Yankees and the Red Sox. So they definitely got out to a really interesting start, but it looks like they're going to be coming more closer down to earth than they were at. Up next is the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks, prior to this ranking at 23. They were ranked 27th. And they got to climb up a few spots after winning the series against the Cincinnati Reds, who had been red hot up until they played the Diamondbacks. Their offense is showing a little bit of power, and Luke Weaver and Taylor Widener are doing really good so far, with both of their ERAs being in the low half of the twos. So they're definitely doing pretty good, and they're starting to look a little bit more like a contender. Up next is the Chicago Cubs. Their previous rank was at number 9. Now they're at number 22. They just don't look the same. They just don't look like they have the same or any kind of offense through the 9 games that they played so far, 9-10 games that they played. They have the worst batting average and on-base percentage in baseball, so it's kind of a miracle that they've scored the 26 runs that they have. Up next is the Oakland A's. They were ranked 20th prior to this season. Now they're to this week. Now they're ranked 21st. They just kind of got destroyed their first weekend against the Astros. And then they've sort of rebounded with a 3-3 week but they did lose Trevor Rosenthal before he was able to make his A's debut. So that's definitely not good for them. At number 20 is the Toronto Blue Jays. They're ranked. Their previous rank was 8th, but they lost to the Rangers and the Angels. They lost both their series to those two teams. They do have still a positive run differential, so that's a good thing. But right now they're just not playing at where they need to be playing. At number 19 is the Mets. They had to deal with the COVID outbreak with the Mets for a while. They're 2-3 so far. They were ranked 6th prior to this week. And it looks like their offense is not going to be doing very well so far this year. DeGrom has allowed 8 hits and just 1 earned run in the 14 innings that he's had in his 2 starts, and had to settle for a loss and a no decision because of that. It just looks like the same woes for the Mets right now. Their offense is just not where it needs to be. Up next at 18 is the Yankees. Their record is 5-5. Last week they were ranked at 12 for Bleacher Report. And their starters are doing okay. Their bullpen is under a lot of pressure without Zach Britton, and they did just get Justin Wilson back. And Domingo Germain was optioned to the minors, so they could bring up a few other guys. But their starting pitching is going to be okay. It's more their bullpen that they really need to work on. Up next at number 17 is the Tampa Bay Rays. Previously, they were ranked 5th. They're 5-5 so far. They snapped a 4-game losing streak when they beat the Yankees 10-5 last Friday. And they did get Chris Archer back, and so I think that they're going to gear up for a run. If they get hot, don't be surprised. Up next at number 16 is the Seattle Mariners. Last week they were at 17. They're 5-4. They have the worst run differential at -11 of any team entering or with a winning record right now. The starting rotation is a 623. They did lose John Paxton to a forearm strain that might require Tommy John, so that's going to be very interesting to see if they're going to be able to get back to where they were. Up next at number 15 is the Kansas City Royals. They're 4-4. They split the series with Cleveland, and they're struggling right now to stay above 500. The starting rotation is just not doing their job right now. They've only pitched 29 innings through their 7 games that they had pitched. Prior to this article being written, it's a little bit more, and their ERA is going to be a little bit lower than that right now, but it's still not great. And their bullpen, fortunately, is picking up the slack, though, with a 3.27 ERA in the 33 innings that they had tallied by the time the article was written. Up next is the St. Louis Cardinals. They're 5-5 at rank number 14. Prior to this week, they were at 19. They did drop 2-3 to the Brewers after they swept the Marlins, but they are going to score plenty of runs this year. But their starting rotation has the worst record in baseball right now with a 6.57 ERA. So it's just going to be a while till that really becomes a serious concern. Up next at number 13 is the White Sox. They were 13th as well the previous week. They're 5-5. They do have a plus 11 run differential right now, and Lance Lynn did throw 5 shutout innings at his first home start in a White Sox uniform. Carlos Rendon threw 5 scoreless in his 2021 debut. And there is, I mean, the White Sox are in a good spot right now. They're not anything that is going to be really impressive just yet, but they're in a decent spot right now. You can't really be that upset at them. At number 12, they have the Braves at 4-6 with their previous ranking was 14. Ronald Acuna Jr. is probably going to win a MVP at some point, but that some point could probably be this year. Right now, he's 23. He's hitting .440 with a .462 on base percentage and a .917 slugging percentage. And if he's able to keep that up, it's going to be very impressive. The Cleveland Indians are ranked at number 11 with a 5-4 record. Their prior rank to this week was 22nd. And they are going to have a very, very good starting rotation again this year. I mean, it's going to be just super impressive. They did get to sweep the Tigers and kind of bounce back. Their run differential is plus 15, which is tied for the third highest among American League teams. Obviously, the Astros are kind of holding that one down, but the Astros and the Reds definitely in run differential, some of the best teams right now. Up next at number 10 is the Milwaukee Brewers. They are 6-4. Their prior rank to this week was 23rd. And Corbin Burns is doing very good this year. So is Brandon Woodruff. And they right now might be the best 1-2 punch in baseball so far. Corbin Burns so far 12 1/3, a .73 ERA, a .16 WHIP, and then 20 strikeouts to go on top of that. And Brandon Woodruff has pitched 11 innings, a .245 ERA, and a .82 WHIP with 13 strikeouts. So it's really impressive. They did lose Colton Wong to a strained oblique, but like their offense is the only thing that is holding the Brewers back right now. And I think that once they get back into the rhythm of things, that the Brewers might run away with the NL Central, especially if the Reds are not able to stay as hot as they were at the beginning of the season. So at number 9 is the Los Angeles Angels. Their prior rank was 10th. They're 7-3. They are the highest ranked team in this with a negative run differential, but that's mostly to a 15-1 blowout loss that they had against the Blue Jays this past Sunday. And then you do have an amazing 2, 3, 4, 5 with Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, and then Jared Walsh, which is just going to give pitchers just nightmares all season because you can't pitch around anybody until you get to maybe Jared Walsh. And at that time, you're just you already had to go through the heart of the lineup, and obviously that's just situational baseball where you're trying to figure out who is the better person to try and pitch around. Like, are you going to try and pitch around Mike Trout and then go at Anthony Rendon and then potentially Jared Walsh? Or are you going to try and go around, I don't think you can try and pitch around Ohtani because then you have Mike Trout right behind him. Are you going to try and pitch through all three of them and then potentially have the bases loaded situation and then you have Jared Walsh up there and then you kind of have to just try and get around him or try and get him out kind of thing? It's definitely something that is super, super interesting and pretty important, honestly. Up next is the San Francisco Giants. They're ranked 8th, and previously they were ranked 26th. They took 2 out of 3 from the Padres last week and then swept the Rockies. And the team's offensive additions probably needed they probably didn't move the needle for the fans, but Anthony DeScalafani has started 2 games. He has a .82 ERA, 11 innings pitched. Aaron Sanchez has 1 game started. He has through 5 innings, looked really good out there as well. And then Jake McGee is looking lights out. He's 4 for 4 so far in save opportunities. He has over 5 innings pitched, and he hasn't given up a run yet. So, I mean, that's really, really important for them. At number 7 is the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox were ranked 25th before this. They have a 6-3 record at the time of me recording this. So they got swept by Baltimore to start the season. That's definitely not the ideal start that they had in mind. But the Red Sox have won the last 6 games that they played. And JD Martinez looks to be back to his old self after a terrible 2020 season. He has 5 home runs and 16 RBIs. He's hitting .472 with a .500 on-base percentage. I mean, and this lineup is really good so far. I mean, but the only question is, what are they going to do about their starting rotation? At number 6 is the Phillies. They were ranked number 7. The Phillies bullpen factored into a decision of 6 of the team's first 9 games. That would have been just absolutely disastrous a year ago, where their relief corps was just one of the worst teams, or one of the worst bullpens in Major League Baseball history, honestly. But I mean, this year it's a completely different result. And because of that, the 6 games that it has come down to the bullpen, they're 5-1 with a record in that, with 3 saves and 4 chances, a .373 ERA. And the 31 innings that they've pitched for that, like in these kinds of situations, and they have a stacked lineup and a solid rotation, and if their bullpen keeps performing like this, it's probably going to push them over the top. At number 5 is the Minnesota Twins. They were ranked 4th. They got pushed out by a different team that we'll get to in just a second, but the Twins entered this week with the third highest run differential with a +21 in baseball behind the Dodgers and the Astros. Byron Buxton has been going off. He's hitting .481 right now, a .548 on-base percentage, 5 home runs. Nelson Cruz has 4 home runs. He's hitting over .400 right now. They're both just absolutely raking. Their offense is still back to where it was last year and the year before, getting almost or over 6 runs a game. And their ERA is one of the best in the bigs as well. Their pitching staff has a .283 ERA. So going into number 4 is the Cincinnati Reds. And the Reds were pretty awesome to start the year. They did get blanked in the back-to-back postseason games that they played last year, but so far this offense has been one of the best offenses in baseball. They lead the bigs in batting average for a team with .289, OPS, and home runs. They're tied for first with home runs, and they have a sole position in lead for runs scored with 66. Tyler Naquin was an amazing pickup for them. He's hitting .290 right now, a .389 on-base percentage, and 806 OPS, and 5 home runs and 14 RBIs to go with that. He right now is making a very good case for most valuable player so far, and I couldn't agree more that he has just been an absolutely amazing signing for the Reds. At number the 3, 2, and 1 are all the same as last week for Bleacher Report. The Astros are 6-4 right now. Oh, I'm sorry. The Reds are 7-3. They did just lose their series against the Diamondbacks, but they have the Giants coming up, and they should be pretty good with that. The Astros, they did lose the weekend series to the Athletics, but they do hold the number 3 spot in a bunch of rankings, and they have a +23 run differential that leads AL teams. 5 different players in the starting lineup are hitting over 300. The pitching staff is posting a .349 ERA, and Jake Cardozi is going to make his debut the day I'm recording this, so April 13th. I mean, it's just going to be the Astros are doing really well this year. At number 2, the Padres. Even with Clevenger out and Dinson Lamet nursing a sore elbow, this Padres have had one of the best pitching staffs through 10 games. They're 8-3 right now. Joe Musgrove's no-hitter obviously helps them out a lot, but Tatis is out right now, but it looks like he might return a little bit faster than some people expected, probably sometime late next week or the following week. And then obviously the number one team in baseball is still the Dodgers. They've only lost 2 games this year, and everybody is kind of chasing them right now. They're definitely leading everybody. They have a stacked lineup, stacked rotation, and a stacked bullpen as well. So, I mean, you really just can't you can't really do anything against the Dodgers right now. And that's really just what it comes down to, is that they are just so much better than everybody else that, well, I wouldn't say necessarily that much better than everybody else, but they're still king. You have to take the throne. It's like Muhammad Ali said, if you want to beat the best, you got to beat the best. So, and right now the Dodgers are the best. So right now we're going to take a short little break, and then we're going to come back with some stats and standings from around the league here in just a second.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome into the third segment of today's episode of the GSMC Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, still Patrick Kenny, here with you. Follow my personal Twitter at Patrick_Kenny_. You can follow me. I like pretty much everything that GSMC Baseball, the account, posts and that I post on there. So you can find me like that. But right here, we're going to go over a few stats and then the standings as well for Major League Baseball so far going into this following that last week. So first stat I want to get into is through his first starts, Jacob deGrom has thrown 23 pitches at 100 miles an hour or more. That is the most a starting pitcher has had since the since the pitch tracking era began in 2008. That's an amazing stat. He has only allowed one earned run over his 8 hits through the 14 innings he has played this season, and he struck out 21 batters while walking just 2. He also recorded the Mets' first hit of the season, which is likely he's likely going to be one of the last to do that, if not the last to do that, since the league is likely going to adopt the universal DH either after this season or relatively soon after this season. And up next is Byron Buxton has a record 9 hits this year. I should say extra base hits because that's the record that he has. He has played in 8 of the 9 games that the Twins have had this season. Injuries have limited Buxton in the past, but he's definitely living up to the hype that he's always had now that he's back and healthy, kind of a thing. So Buxton has hit safely in every game that he's played in, giving him the second longest hitting streak of his career. He has 5 home runs and 4 doubles, so that's 9 extra base hits right there through the team's first 9 games. He's tied with Christian Guzman in 2001 for the most in Twins or Senators history. And through that span, right now he's one of the best hitters in baseball. A 481 average, a league high OPS with a 1,734 OPS, and he's just doing a really good job. He's just off to a hot start. So Nick Castellanos is another guy I want to talk about real quick. He was obviously known for being a part of for hitting an untimely home run last season, and we've talked about that a few times. But he's getting attention for the way he's hitting right now. He is off to a fantastic start. He's hitting .364, a 400 on base percentage, and 848 OPS, and then 4 home runs. It's pretty awesome how good he is. He started off strong last season as well, and he had a 12-game hitting streak, but after that he cooled off very significantly. His 226 WRC plus is well above his career mark of 112, so there is a good chance that he is just punching above his weight right now, but so far in this season, he is doing one heck of a job. And if you're not familiar with what a WRC plus is, it's just weighted runs created plus category. Basically, it takes into an external factors, it just basically takes in like how good he is at creating runs, and he is hitting well above his career mark right now. So going to our next stat is we're going to go over the league leader in batting average real quick. All right, and so number 1 in batting average right now, Yerman Mercedes. He's played in 8 games, has had 32 at-bats, 16 hits, which means he has a 500 average. Cedric Mullins is up next, the center fielder for the Baltimore Orioles. He is played in 11 games, 37 at-bats, 17 hits, 5 doubles, 1 home run, 1 RBI. He's hitting .459 right now. Ronald Acuna Jr. is in the 3rd spot right now, tied with JD Martinez for a .447 average. Both players have had played in 10 games, had 38 at-bats, and both players have had 17 hits. Also, both players 10 runs scored. JD Martinez beats him out in doubles and home runs, however, as well as RBIs. JD Martinez has 7 doubles, 5 home runs, and 16 RBIs, as opposed to Acuna's 5 doubles and 4 home runs. Going next to on base percentage right now, Yerman Mercedes is still leading the league in on base percentage with a .556 on base percentage. A Mike Trout in in second place right now with a .545 on base percentage. Max Muncy in the 3rd spot with a .524. Yuri Gurriel for Houston is hitting .400 right now and has an on-base percentage of .523. And then Cedric Mullins is in 5th place with a .512 on-base percentage, and as is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and they are both tied in on-base percentage for 5th right there, respectively. League leaders right now in home runs is Byron Buxton, JD Martinez, and Ryan McCann. Ryan McCann, the second baseman for Colorado. All 5 of those players, including Tyler Naquin, all have 5 home runs so far this season. And then there are 9 players currently tied for 5th place, with Ronald Acuna Jr., Nick Castellanos, Nelson Cruz, Rafael Devers, Eduardo Escobar, Freddie Freeman, Wilson Ramos, Franmil Reyes, Mike Trout, and Kyle Tucker all having 4, and then a whole bunch of guys also have 3 home runs this year. Leading the league so far in doubles is JD Martinez. He has 7. Rhys Hopkins comes in at second with 6 doubles. Ronald Acuna Jr., and Byron Buxton and Cedric Mullins, and then and Justin Turner follow Rhys Hopkins with 5 doubles, and then again a whole bunch of guys are tied after that. for doubles. Leading the league in hits this year, there is a three-way tie with Ronald Acuna Jr., JD Martinez, and Cedric Mullins. All have 17 hits. Yerman Mercedes is the only guy in the league right now with 16. And then Jake Cronenworth is in 5th place with 14. And then following him, there are, again, a whole bunch of guys that are tied for the next few spots. Leading the league in RBIs this year, right now it's JD Martinez. He already has 16 in 10 games played. That is crazy. Nate Lowe, Tyler Naquin are tied for 2nd with 14 RBIs. Jonathan India, Will Myers, Shohei Ohtani, and Kyle Tucker are all tied for 4th place with 11 RBIs right now so far. Leading the league in walks is Mike Trout with 11, Robbie Grossman with 10, Joey Gallo, Yasmani Grandal, Yuri Gurriel, and Max Muncy are all tied for 3rd with 9 walks, and then there are a few guys that are tied for 7th with 8 walks as well. Leading the league, however, in strikeouts, Javier Baez and Ryan Moscato for Baltimore. He's the DH for Baltimore, and Nick Solak all have 17 strikeouts so far this year. Nate Lowe, Miguel Sano, Jorge Soler, and Taylor Trammell, the center fielder for Seattle. They are all tied for 4th with 16. And then you have a few guys tied for 8th with 15, and then tied for 4th is a bunch of guys with 14 home runs as well. Going over to the pitching stats so far this year, leading the league in wins is Connor Brogdon for the Philadelphia Phillies. He has 3 wins so far. He's pitched in 4 2/3 innings. And has come out and done a very good job in relief of the bullpen. He's in his 4 games that he pitched. Jose Alvarado for the Phillies is also up there. He has 2 wins, a 1.93 ERA in the 5 games that he's played. He also does have a save on his belt. Jake Arrieta is 2-0 as well. Jose Barrios, Aaron Savall, Garrett Cole, Josh Hader. Josh Hader, even though he's not a starter, he's still 2-0. Junior Gurria and Giovanni Gallardos are all tied for 2nd, I would say, with 2 wins. Leading the league, or the guys that have started the most games so far, is Sandy Alcantara for Miami, Chris Bassett, and Madison Bumgarner, Hugh Darvish, Garrett Cole, Tyler Glasnow, Zach Greinke, Clayton Kershaw, Dallas Keuchel, and German Marquez all have started 3 games. There's a bunch of guys that have started 2. There is a 2-way tie for complete games. Lance Lynn had one of his lone complete games. I believe he's up to either 4 or 5 right now complete games for his career. And then also Joe Musgroves. Also up there as well. Leading the league so far up until this point in innings pitched, Tyler Glasnow has pitched 19 2/3 innings. Clayton Kershaw is in 2nd with 18.2. Sandy Alcantara, 18.1. Garrett Cole, 18 1/3 as well. Hugh Darvish and Zach Greinke are tied for 5th with 17 2/3. Leading the league in walks so far this season is Austin Gobner of the Colorado Rockies, as well as German Marquez. They're both tied with 11. And then you have Freddie Peralta of Milwaukee, who has 9, as does Jose Urania of Detroit. Chris Bassett, Madison Bumgarner, Justin Dunn, and Chad Kuhl all are tied for 5th place with 8. And then going over to strikeouts, Garrett Cole leads the league right now in strikeouts. He does have 3 starts, and so does Tyler Glasnow. They both are tied with 29 strikeouts. Shane Bieber, Freddie Peralta, Sandy Alcantara, Jacob deGrom all have 2 starts. Sandy Alcantara has 3, but the other Freddie Peralta, Shane Bieber, and Jacob deGrom only have 2 starts so far, and they are all tied for 24 with 24. Going over to the standings, we're going to start out in the NL West. The Dodgers are 8-2 with a first place hold over the San Diego Padres by just a half game. The Padres are 8-3, just a half game back, but they are a game and a half up on the wild card. San Francisco Giants are held that second wild card spot, actually, tied with the Milwaukee Brewers. They have a 6-4 record, 2 games back from the Dodgers. Arizona is 4-7, and Colorado is 3-7. The Diamondbacks are 4.5 games back, and the Colorado Rockies are 5 games back from first place in the NL West. Going out to the AL West, the Angels have a 1-game lead over the Astros for first place in the AL West. The Astros do have a half game up on the wild card, a game back from the Angels with a 6-4 record. Seattle has a 5-4 record. They're a game and a half back out of first place, and they do hold that second wild card spot right now, tied with Minnesota and Cleveland. The Oakland A's are 3.5 back. They're starting to come back a little bit this season, finally starting to climb out of the cellar. They're 4-7 right now, 3.5 back. They're on a 3-game winning streak. The Rangers are 3-7 right now in last place out in the AL West. Going to the NL Central, Pittsburgh is 3-7, 4 games back out of first place, with being 3 back from the wild card. The Chicago Cubs are 4-6. with being 3 games back out of the first place of the division, 2 games back out of the wild card. The St. Louis Cardinals are 5-5. They are 2 games back out of first place, 1 game out of the wild card. Milwaukee is 1 game back out of first place with a record of 6-4, and like I said, they are tied for that second wild card spot with the Giants right now. And then the Reds are 7-3 right now. They have a plus 23 run differential. They're doing a great job so far this season. They are 7-3 and hold first place in the division. And I believe aside from the Dodgers and the Padres, they have the most wins tied with the Angels. So the Angels and the Reds are both 7-3 right now. The only 2 teams that have more wins this year are the Dodgers and the Padres. And now we're going back out to the American League, and we're going to go over the AL Central real quick. The AL Central is by far, at least in my opinion, the closest division. Actually, not even in my opinion, it's just the closest division so far this season right now. And in fact, you can wake up one day and your team go from first place in the division to last place, or vice versa. So right now, the Cleveland Indians and the Minnesota Twins are both tied for first place in the division, and they also are tied for the second wild card spot. The Indians are currently have a plus 14 run differential. The Twins have a plus 21 run differential. The Twins have given up more runs than the Cleveland Indians, but the Twins have scored much more runs as well. In third place, the White Sox are at 500, both a half game back from the wild card spot and first place, with a 5-5 record. The Kansas City Royals are also tied for third with a 4-4 record, both a half game back in both spots as well. And then Detroit is a game and a half back behind first place and the wild card at 4-6. And then going out to the NL East, I would say this is probably the most, I don't know if I would say surprising, but it's definitely it's definitely a very interesting division to say the least. So Washington is in last place with 2-5. They did miss a few games, and that delayed their season because of a COVID outbreak. And then you go up to Miami, who is 3-6. Both of those teams are 3 games back out of first place and 2.5 back out of the wild card. The Mets are in third place at 2-3. They also missed a few games because of COVID-19 protocols because of the Washington Nationals. And they are, like I said, 2-3. They're 2 games back out of first place, 1.5 back out of the wild card. The Atlanta Braves are 4-6. They have they are 4-6 right now, like I said. 2.5 back from first place and 2 back from the wild card, but they do have more wins than the Mets. So technically, even though the Mets are closer they technically have the exact same winning percentage, but because the Braves they have more wins, they are technically higher in the division standings than the Mets, but that is just sort of a technicality right now at this point, and Philadelphia is in first place right now. They are 6-3, first place in the division. They have the 4th best record in the National League right now, behind the Dodgers, Padres, and the Reds. There are a couple of teams that are 6-4, so they're at like a half game up on those teams, like the Milwaukee Brewers and the San Francisco Giants. And then we're going to head out real quick to the Boston Red Sox and the American League East. Toronto is in last place with a 4-6 record, 2.5 back from first, 1.5 out of the wild card spot. Baltimore is 4-5. They are 2-0, or the 2 games back out of first place, 1 back out of the wild card right now. Tampa Bay is in third, tied with the Yankees for second. Actually, they both have 5-5 records. They're both a game and a half back out of first place and a half game back out of the wild card. And then Boston is on a 6-game winning streak. They lost their first 3, but have won their last 6. They're 6-3, plus 15 in run differential, and they are doing really good at bouncing back after a very rough start to the season. So that's our updates for today. We're going to go back in just a second in the next segment, and we're going to go over the top 10 pitchers and my top 10 pitchers in baseball right now. We'll be back in just a second, guys.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
And welcome back into the last segment of today's episode. I still think we got a good one for you this last segment. I have my top 10 pitchers in Major League Baseball right now, and I'm going to give you guys a few reasons why everyone is where they are, and why. And there are some people on this list that I think are a little bit higher or a little bit lower than a lot of people would put them, and I personally think that some of these, or one of these guys specifically, is a little bit higher than right now, but I think that he's just more toward the end of his career kind of a thing, and because of that, I ranked him a little bit lower, and we'll get into him in just a second. So at number 10, I have Aaron Nola. So far this season, he has yet to get a decision in the 2 games that he started. He's thrown 10 innings. He has 10 2/3 innings, 11 strikeouts, a 1.31 WHIP, and but over the course of his career, and he has a 2.53 ERA. He's definitely the Phillies' ace right now. The guy that he's going to be their guy for at least the next few years. He has done very, very well so far in his career. He is just 28 years old. He's doing really well. Last season, he did very well, even in the shortened season. He's been a Cy Young candidate, last season, and then in 2018 as well. And his wins above replacement in 2018 was his best year in the bigs. It was second among pitchers. He's just been a really good guy for the Phillies for the last few years. In fact, in 2018, he was just amazing pitching. Like in 2018, he went 17-6, had a 2.37 ERA. He had over 200 innings pitched, almost 213. He only gave up 149 hits actually. He had over 224 or 220 strikeouts, and then in 2020 he was just as excellent. Or not as excellent. His ERA was still pretty high compared to his 2018 year, but he's still a really good pitcher, and I think he's starting to find his stride. So up next, though, is Walker Buehler. So far this year, he has a .4 WAR, he has a 1-0 record, a 1.50 ERA, and 12 innings pitched with 8 strikeouts to go along with it. He's only been in the league. This is his 5th year. He has a 25-9 win-loss record. He only started starting games. That's a little tough to say, but he began starting games in 2018, where he had 23 starts. In 2019, he had 30 starts and 2 complete games. Last season, he didn't have any starts or anything like that, or as many starts, I should say. He only had 8 starts, but he had a 3.44 ERA. The year before, he had a 3.26 ERA. This year, so far, he only has a 1.50 ERA. He's definitely getting into his stride. 2019 was his best year. He was an all-star candidate. And then he also finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year award in 2018. He's 26 right now. He's doing a great job so far this year. I just think that he's doing what he really needs to be doing to become one of the best pitchers in baseball, and I think he's definitely on his way this year. He finished 9th in Cy Young voting in 2019. He was an All-Star in 2019 as well. In 2019, he also finished with the 6th best amount of wins. He had the best win-loss percentage in 2019, and he's one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. I don't think that can really be disputed at the moment. I just think that he's too good for anybody to actually compare him. And for his career, and granted, his career has been a little weird just because everybody's career is a little weird right now because of the 2020 season. But with his 2 full seasons at the bigs and the 2020 season, he has a 6.2 WAR, 25-9 overall record, and a 3.10 ERA. And I think this kid is going to be good for a long time to come. Up next is the guy that I was talking about earlier. It's Max Scherzer. Now, I think that this is where he ranks because of his age. I think that he's kind of on the decline. He has had 2 starts. He's thrown 12 innings. He's struck out 14, but he is 0-1 with a 3.75 ERA right now. And for his career, he's still one of the best pitchers one of the best pitchers, I think, of this generation, if not of all time. He has 175 career wins, 94 losses. His career ERA is a 3.21. He has started 370 games. He has 11 complete games, 5 shutouts. He's pitched over 2,300 innings. If he pitches for a few more years, and granted he is in his age 36 season, which is the biggest reason why I have that's the biggest reason why I put him down as low as I did, just because I think that he is still one of the best pitchers in baseball, and I'm definitely I would probably take him over maybe even a Clayton Kershaw at this point in time. And Clayton Kershaw is on this list. He's a little bit higher, but I think that Scherzer is, I just think that Scherzer is going to be, I think he's nearing the end, and that's why I have him so low on this list. And it's crazy to say that I have him so low on this list, even though he's a 3-time Cy Young Award winner, and he has finished in the top 5 in Cy Young voting 4 other times, not including his wins. Like, he's had a great career. He's a great pitcher, and that is I mean, I can't really get any more, or I can't really describe him anymore. Like, he's just so good. His opponent batting average against him is it's really low. His opponent batting average against him is 223. Like, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball and has been for a very long time for a reason. And for strikeouts, he's nearing 3,000 for his career, and I think that he'll probably get that. And that just goes to show how good of a pitcher that he has been. Up next at number 7, I have Max Fried of the Braves. So far this season, he's been getting roughed up a little bit. He's had 2 starts. His WAR is at -2 or -0.2 right now, which isn't good at all. But he has a 9 ERA, but he's struggling right now. But the rest of the Braves are struggling as well. He is only 27. He's been in the league for a few years now. Was a Cy Young Award finisher last year, he's very good. He didn't lose a game last year, which is actually really impressive. He went 7-0 in the 11 games that he got to pitch in last year. So I think that he'll probably bounce back this year. Like in 2019, the year before, he went 17-6. He's a very good pitcher. So I think that he's gonna bounce back, but we gotta kind of get a move on here on these stats. But up next at number 6 is Clayton Kershaw. And Kershaw so far this year, he's had 3 starts. He has a .4 WAR, a 2-1 record with a 2.89 ERA, 18.2 innings pitched, and then 16 strikeouts, For his career, he is doing very well for a WAR. His career WAR is a 69.9, so that's definitely going to go up by the time he retires and definitely be at Hall of Fame level. He has 357 career starts, 177 career wins as opposed to 77 career losses. His ERA for his career is a 2.44. He has 2,351 and 2/3 innings pitched for his career, and then he is not as close to Max Scherzer to 3,000 strikeouts, but he is at 2,542 strikeouts for his career. And I mean, that's just so good. And he finally got his World Series win last year. He's not the same pitcher that he was when he first broke into the league at the age of 20, but he's been in the league now. This is his 14th year. He's 33 years old, so he's still technically in the prime of his career. He's won the Cy Young 3 times, finished in the top 5 of Cy Young voting a bunch of times. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 other times that he didn't win. He also won an MVP award once, and he's been an all-star, and he's been a perennial all-star his entire career. He's just such a good, he's just such a good player. It's ridiculous how good he is. He's led the league in ERA 5 times in his career. He's a great pitcher, and there is a reason why he is so valued even this late in his career. He's been just so dominant. He's been an all-star starter 8 times, or not a starter, but he's been an all-star 8 times. He's been a starter I think 5 or 6 of those times. He's a very good player. He won the Triple Crown in the National League in 2011. He also won. He's won a bunch of Cy Youngs. He won the 2014 NL MVP. He's been a great player for a very long time, and there is a lot of reasoning for that. Up next at number 5, I have Hugh Darvish. Hugh Darvish, I think, is right now, because he is the ace on what I think is the second best team in baseball right now with the Padres. I think that he deserves to be up here. He won the Cy Young Award last year. He finished in second in the Cy Young Award voting last year. And then he was traded to the Padres this past off season. He's entering his age 34 season. He is doing very good this year. He is 1-0 in the 3 games that he has started. He's pitched in 17 2/3 innings with an ERA of 3.06. His career ERA is a 3.46, so he's below his regular ERA or his career ERA. He has a 72-56 record in the 185 games that he started. He has almost 1,500 strikeouts, and he is nearing 12,000 innings pitched for his career. Now, granted, he hasn't been in the league as long as guys like Kershaw or Max Scherzer because he was playing overseas for quite a while. But when he was in he was with the Rangers for a while, and then he went to Toronto, and then back to Texas, and then he was with the Dodgers for a brief moment in time, and for the last few years he's been with the Cubs, and now he's in San Diego. This is his 9th year in the league. Like I said, he has almost 1,500 innings pitched. Almost 1,200 innings pitched. My bad. He has almost 1,500 strikeouts. He is really, really good. That he has he's had such a good career for so long. And his strikeouts through 9, which is an 11.1, for his career, is an all-time career record. So if he were to retire right now, he would retire with the highest strikeout per 9 innings rate as for a career, and that is just magnificent. When you think of guys like Clayton Kershaw or Max Scherzer's K through 9 for his career is a 10.6. Clayton Kershaw's K through 9 for his career isn't even near Max Scherzer's even. It's his K through 9 for his career is a 9.7. It's really, really impressive how good that this guy has been for such a long time. Now up next is Trevor Bauer at number 4. And there's a reason that he signed a 3-year, $102 million deal. So far, he has pitched in 2 games this year. He's 1-0 with a 4.15 ERA. He's going to give up a lot of runs. That's kind of who he is as a pitcher, but he is also really, really dominant when he is on and he doesn't make a mistake. But that is the key, when he does not make a mistake. So he is entering his age 30 season. He's been in the bigs for about 10 years now. His career ERA is a 3.91. He led the league in ERA last year. He had a career low ERA last year of a 1.73. And he has struck out 12,999 batters at the time of this recording. So he's definitely one of really, really good guy. And his K through 9 is 9.7. He's not even near Hugh Darvish with how many strikeouts that he has. It's really, really crazy how good that Hugh Darvish is at striking batters out. It's honestly pretty insane how good he is. Trevor Bauer has a career. I think Trevor Bauer is starting to project up in his career, and I think that he's starting to get some really good money for who he is, and I think that there's a reason that he signed that $100 million deal for in 3 years. Up next at number 3 is Shane Bieber. Right now, I think Shane Bieber is arguably the best pitcher in baseball, if not arguably the best pitcher in the American League Baseball. And I do have somebody ahead of him in the American League coming up next. But these top 3 guys are just so good right now. It's ridiculous. Shane Bieber is entering his age 26 season. This is his 4th year in the league. He only has 66 career starts. Only one real full season played where he actually had a whole bunch of starts. His career K through 9 right now is an 11.2. He strikes out so many batters, it's crazy. But he just doesn't have. He's just so young, and I think he's so dominant that he definitely deserves to be up in the top 3. Up next, Garrett Cole. He's 2-0 so far in the 3 starts that he's had with a 1.47 ERA. He has been absolutely terrific so far this season. And for his career, he has a 103 record in the 207 games that he started. He's lost 55 of those games. He has almost 1,300 innings pitched, almost 1,500 strikeouts. And a 26.9 career WAR. With Pittsburgh, he struggled quite a bit and then finally found his footing in Houston. Now he's with the Yankees at his age 30 season, and he's doing a great job so far with that. Like I said, he has not won a Cy Young Award, but he has been very close a couple of times. One of those times losing out to his partner in crime for the time being with Justin Verlander a few years ago. But he's been a perennial all-star for the last few years, and he definitely deserves to be where he ranks. Up next, I think, is the best pitcher in baseball and has been for the last few years, and that's Jacob deGrom. deGrom has pitched in 2 games this year, and he is the only pitcher in Major League Baseball to have a WAR above 1 already. He has an 0-1 record with a .64 ERA. He has pitched in 14 innings, 21 strikeouts, a .714 whip, and has an 0-1 record. It's ridiculous how good this guy is and the fact that his team just never gives him any run support is ridiculous. His career win-loss percentage is a .574, but when you compare that to his career ERA of a .259, it's crazy. He has a 70-52 win-loss record for his career out of the 185 games that he's started. His career WAR is a 39.7, and he's only entering his 8th year in the league. This guy has been so good for such a long time. It's crazy. He led the league in strikeouts last season in the shortened season. He has 1,380 strikeouts for his career. He has almost 1,200 innings pitched, and he struck out so many batters. And his career strikeout percentage is almost rivals that of Shane Bieber and Hugh Darvish with a 10.5 career 9 or K through 9. It's crazy how many batters that he strikes out. So that's my top 10, y'all. Let me know what you think. Reach us on Twitter at GSMC_baseball. Leave a review on Apple iTunes. Follow us on Spotify. Watch us on YouTube. We post all of our content everywhere. Anywhere you get your podcasts, so whether it be YouTube, Stitcher, Apple Music, Spotify, whatever, it's there. Go find us, go rate us, go review us, let us know how we're doing. Thank you guys so much. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.